My name is Sienna Hartley, and I was 26 years old when the man I loved told me I wasn't worth the life he wanted. At least, that's how it felt in the end. Looking back now, I realize the warning signs were there long before everything collapsed. I just didn't understand what they meant yet. Ethan Caldwell and I were together for almost 2 years. We met through mutual friends at a backyard barbecue during one of those warm, late summer evenings where everyone lingers outside long after the sun goes down. He had that effortless confidence that draws people in. Easy smile, relaxed posture, the kind of man who could walk into a room and instantly make it feel more alive. He asked for my number before the night ended. At the time, it felt like the beginning of something good. I worked as a financial analyst for a mid-sized consulting firm. The job paid well, not flashy money, but stable. The kind of income that lets you build something real if you're patient. I drove a 2012 Toyota Corolla. It was reliable, paid off, and honestly, I liked it. I cooked most of my meals at home. I tracked my spending. I invested regularly. Every extra dollar went toward savings and long-term plans. My goal was simple: buy property before I turned 30. Ethan used to tease me about it. "You're the only 26-year-old I know who gets excited about spreadsheets," he laughed once while watching me balance my monthly budget. I nudged his shoulder. "Someone has to plan for the future. At this rate," he joked, "you'll retire before 40. Back then, it felt like harmless teasing. Affectionate. But somewhere around the year-and-a-half mark, the joke stopped feeling lighthearted. The first moment that stuck with me happened during a random Tuesday night dinner. We were at a casual Italian place, nothing fancy, just a quiet spot where we could talk after work. Or at least, that's what I thought we were there for. Ethan spent most of the evening scrolling through Instagram. "Look at this," he said suddenly, turning his phone toward me. On the screen was a picture of one of his friends posing beside a candle-lit table at some upscale steakhouse downtown. "Ryan took Chloe there last night," Ethan said. "That place costs like $300 for dinner." "It looks nice," I said, taking another bite of pasta. "When's the last time we went somewhere like that?" I blinked. "We went to Romano's for your birthday last month." He leaned back in his chair. "Romano's isn't the same thing, Sienna. That's a chain restaurant. So is this place." "You know what I mean." Honestly, I didn't. The food was good. The conversation was decent. We were together. What else was supposed to matter? But Ethan looked frustrated, so I changed the subject. That conversation should have told me something. Instead, I ignored it. Over the next few months, little comments like that started appearing more often. After parties, after group dinners, after nights out with friends. One evening, after leaving his coworker's birthday gathering, Ethan finally said what he'd clearly been thinking for a while. We had just pulled into the parking lot of his apartment complex when he sighed heavily. "Your car is kind of embarrassing." I turned to him slowly. "What?" "Everyone else pulled up in actual cars." I glanced down at the steering wheel. The car was clean, reliable, paid off. "What's wrong with it?" "Sienna, it's 12 years old. And the paint's fading. The seats are worn. It runs perfectly." "That's not the point." I waited. "What is the point?" I asked. He stared out the windshield for a long moment before muttering, "Never mind, you wouldn't understand." The tension kept building after that. Small things. Little digs. Comments about my clothes. About the restaurants I chose. About how I always suggested hiking trails instead of expensive weekend trips. Then came the moment everything truly cracked. His friend Marcus was getting married, which meant bachelor party. In Miami. 3 days. Oceanfront hotel. $400 a night. Ethan brought it up one evening while we were sitting on my couch. "Marcus wants everyone staying at the same hotel," he said casually. "Okay. It's about $1,200 for the room." "For 3 nights?" "Yeah." I nodded slowly. "Plus flights, food, drinks." He watched me carefully. "You'll help me cover it, right?" I blinked. "Oh, what?" "It's Marcus's bachelor party." "I understand that." "So?" "So that's almost $3,000, Ethan." He frowned. "You make good money." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" "It's a lot to spend on one weekend." He stared at me like I had just insulted him. "You're serious?" "Yes." He laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "God, Sienna. Sometimes you act like every dollar is coming out of your own blood." "It's about priorities. And apparently your priorities don't include supporting me." That was the first time the argument turned ugly. But it wasn't the last. He still went on the trip. Without me. And while he was there, his Instagram stories were nonstop. Luxury restaurants, bottle service, designer sunglasses. Things I knew Ethan couldn't afford. When he came back, something about him felt different. More distant, more distracted. Always checking his phone. A few days later, I noticed something strange when I stopped by his apartment after work. There was a designer handbag sitting on the kitchen counter. Next to it, a jewelry box. Brand names I recognized. Expensive ones. I picked up the bag. Ethan? He walked in from the hallway. What? Where did this come from? He barely glanced at it. Does it matter? This bag costs at least $1,000. He shrugged. At least someone thinks I deserve nice things. The words hit harder than I expected. What does that mean? He crossed his arms. It means not everyone thinks saving every penny is the only way to live. My stomach tightened. Who bought these? He hesitated, then finally said a name I hadn't heard in a long time. Vanessa, his ex-girlfriend. The one he used to swear meant nothing anymore. I slowly set the bag back down. How long? He frowned. How long what? How long have you been talking to her again? He rubbed the back of his neck. We're not talking like that. Then what are you doing? He paused, then said the sentence that changed everything. She takes care of me. And suddenly, the entire room felt different, because in that moment, I realized I might already be losing him. For a moment, I just stood there staring at him. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, like the walls had moved closer without me noticing. She takes care of me, I repeated slowly. Ethan shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable under the silence that followed. It's not what you think, he said. I let out a short breath. That's usually the sentence people say when it's exactly what I think. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once across the kitchen, like he was trying to organize the words in his head. Vanessa and I ran into each other in Miami, he said finally. Total accident. Of course it was. We grabbed a drink, talked, caught up. And she started buying you things? His jaw tightened. She just understands things differently than you do. I folded my arms. How exactly does she understand them? She understands that life is meant to be enjoyed. There it was again. That tone. Like I was the problem. Like my choices were somehow holding him back. You're saying I don't enjoy life? I asked quietly. That's not what I said. You just implied it. He leaned against the counter, rubbing his temples. Sienna, you plan everything like it's a business meeting. Every dollar has a spreadsheet. Every purchase needs justification. That's called being responsible. Yeah, that's called being obsessed with money. I almost laughed at the irony of that. You're the one standing in a kitchen full of gifts from another woman. That's different. How? He hesitated. Because she does it because she wants to. The air between us went still. You think I don't want to give you things? I asked. When's the last time you did? The question landed like a stone. Birthdays don't count, he continued. Holidays don't count. So spontaneous spending is the new definition of love? No, he said sharply. Feeling appreciated is. I stared at him, trying to understand how the man who once admired my discipline now looked at it like it was a flaw. I've always supported you, I said. Supported me? Yes. By budgeting our dinners? He said with a dry laugh. By suggesting we split appetizers so it's cheaper? That's practical. Yeah, that's exhausting. The word hung in the air. Exhausting. Like loving me had been some kind of burden. Ethan pushed himself away from the counter. You know what Vanessa did last week? He said. I didn't answer. I mentioned a watch I liked when we were walking past a store. And she bought it for me. I waited. Just like that, he continued. Didn't ask questions. Didn't calculate whether it fit into some 5-year financial plan. He held up his wrist. A sleek silver watch gleamed under the kitchen light. I like making people happy, he said quietly. She gets that. Something inside my chest twisted. Because it wasn't about the watch. It was about what he believed the watch meant. And what does she get in return, I asked. His eyes flicked toward me. What's that supposed to mean? It means nobody spends money like that for no reason. He looked away. She just likes taking care of the people she cares about. My voice softened. Ethan, she's your ex. And people usually become exes for a reason. He sighed heavily. You always do this. Do what? Turn everything into a problem that needs solving. That's because problems exist. He shook his head slowly. No, sometimes life is just supposed to feel good. I watched him for a long moment. Then I asked the question that had been sitting quietly in the back of my mind since he said her name. Are you seeing her again? The room went silent. Ethan didn't answer right away, which was answer enough. We're just spending time together, he said carefully. My throat tightened. While you're still with me, it's not like that. What is it like then? He rubbed the back of his neck again, clearly frustrated. It's complicated. No, I said quietly. It's actually very simple. He looked up. You want a life that looks expensive. That's not fair. You want restaurants that photograph well on Instagram. That's not what this is about. You want luxury trips and designer things and a girlfriend who doesn't question where the money comes from. That's not fair, he repeated, louder this time. And I want stability. You want control. I want a future. I want to live now. The words crashed into each other. Two completely different philosophies. Two different visions of what life was supposed to look like. And suddenly it made sense why the last few months had felt like we were slowly drifting apart without understanding why. Ethan exhaled slowly. You're a good woman, Sienna. That sentence alone told me exactly where the conversation was going. You're responsible. Smart. You've got your whole life mapped out. I said nothing. But sometimes it feels like you're building a life that doesn't have room for fun. Fun? I repeated quietly. Spontaneity. Debt? Experiences. Instability. He ran a hand through his hair again. See, you always turn a negative. No, I said softly. I just call things what they are. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said the words that ended everything. Vanessa makes me feel successful. The sentence landed like a crack in glass. And I don't? I asked. He hesitated. You make me feel safe. It was supposed to be a compliment. But somehow it felt like the worst insult of all. Safe. Predictable. Reliable. Like a savings account instead of a life partner. I think, Ethan said slowly, that maybe we just want different things. The strange part was, I felt calm, not heartbroken, not furious, just tired. You're probably right, I said. He looked almost surprised that I wasn't arguing. You deserve someone who wants the same life you do, he continued. And you deserve someone who buys you watches, I replied. He winced slightly. Sienna. It's okay. And somehow it really was. Because as I stood there in that kitchen, surrounded by gifts from another woman, a strange clarity settled over me. This hadn't started tonight. This had been building for months. Maybe even longer. We had just finally said it out loud. I should go, I said. He nodded. Neither of us cried. Neither of us yelled. Sometimes relationships don't explode. Sometimes they just quietly collapse under the weight of everything that was already broken. I grabbed my purse from the chair. At the door, Ethan spoke again. You'll find someone better suited for you. I looked back at him. I hope you find what you're looking for, too. Outside, the evening air felt cooler than it had earlier. I walked to my car and sat behind the wheel for a long moment. 2 years. Just over. But strangely, as I drove home to my small apartment, one emotion kept rising above everything else. Relief. The quiet kind. The kind that comes when a constant pressure you didn't realize you were carrying finally disappears. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Made coffee, opened my laptop, and did something I'd been planning for months but kept postponing because Ethan said it was too boring. I started researching investment properties, because here's the thing Ethan never understood. I wasn't careful with money because I was afraid to spend it. I was careful because I was building something. And now, there was nothing stopping me. The morning after Ethan and I broke up, the silence in my apartment felt different. Not empty. Clear. For the first time in months, there was no tension humming quietly in the background of my life. No subtle pressure to prove I was exciting enough, generous enough, spontaneous enough. Just quiet. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and my laptop open. On the screen was a spreadsheet I had been building for almost a year. Neighborhood property values, mortgage estimates, rental averages, maintenance projections, a duplex purchase plan. Ethan used to call it my boring real estate obsession. Now it just felt like a plan. And more importantly, it felt like freedom. Within a week, I contacted a realtor who specialized in small investment properties. His name was Grant Whitaker, and he was the kind of person who spoke in numbers and probabilities instead of vague promises. House hacking, he said during our first meeting. You live in one unit, rent the other. The rent covers most of your mortgage. And that's the goal, I said. He nodded approvingly. Smart strategy for your age. For the next few weeks, my life became a blur of property tours, financial projections, and neighborhood research. While Ethan was probably out enjoying expensive dinners and rooftop bars with Vanessa, I was walking through duplexes with creaky stairs and outdated kitchens, imagining what they could become. Strangely, it was the happiest I had felt in a long time. I stopped checking Ethan's social media, deleted his number. When mutual friends asked what happened, I kept it simple. We wanted different things. 3 months later, I found it. A duplex in a quiet neighborhood about 15 minutes from downtown. 2-bedroom units. Solid structure. The previous owner had taken good care of it. The numbers worked almost perfectly. If I rented one side, the income would cover most of the mortgage. The idea of living there didn't just feel practical. It felt empowering. I made the offer that afternoon. 2 days later, it was accepted. The next few months were a whirlwind. Inspections, paperwork, minor renovations, learning more about plumbing, electrical systems, and tenant screening than I ever thought I would. But I loved every second of it, because every decision I made now was for my future, not for someone else's expectations. By the time I closed on the property, I had already found renters for the second unit, a young couple named Tyler and Brooke. They reminded me a little of how Ethan and I used to be in the early days. Hopeful, excited, just starting their lives together. I moved into my half of the duplex on a warm Saturday in June. Standing in the living room surrounded by unpacked boxes, I felt something I had never experienced before. Pride. Real pride. Not the kind that comes from impressing people. The kind that comes from building something with your own hands. That evening, while I was arranging furniture, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. Hey, it's Ethan. Got your new number from Marcus. Heard you bought a house. That's amazing. Would love to catch up sometime. I stared at the message for a long time. A few months earlier, my heart probably would have jumped. Now, I felt nothing. I deleted the message and went back to unpacking dishes. A week later, another text appeared. Sienna, I know things ended weird between us, but I miss talking to you. Vanessa and I aren't together anymore, if that matters. I read it twice, then deleted it. The third message came about a month later. I drove by your old apartment and saw you moved. Marcus told me about the duplex. I'm proud of you. I always knew you'd do something like this. That one almost made me laugh. Always knew? He had spent 2 years telling me my plans were boring. Delete. Around that same time, I met someone new. His name was Lucas Bennett. Technically, we met because of Tyler and Brooke. Lucas was Brooke's older brother. He showed up one afternoon to help them carry boxes into their new place. I was in the driveway planting a small herb garden beside the porch when he walked over. Need a hand with that? He asked. He gestured toward the heavy planter I was trying to move. I've got it, I said. You say that like someone who refuses help on principle. Maybe I do. He grinned. Well, maybe I help anyway. We ended up talking for almost 20 minutes while unloading furniture. Lucas worked as a civil engineer. Quiet confidence. Steady energy. No flashy watch. No expensive car. Just calm. Before he left that day, he said something that surprised me. Would you want to grab coffee sometime? I hesitated for half a second, then said yes. Our first date was at a small cafe 2 blocks away. Nothing fancy. Exactly the kind of place Ethan used to complain about, but Lucas didn't care. We talked for 2 hours about work, travel, family, and the strange reality of adult life. On our third date, when the bill came, Lucas reached for it, then paused. Hey, you got the last 2, he said. Let me take this one. You don't have to. I want to. It was such a simple moment. But after my relationship with Ethan, it felt refreshing. No expectations, no competition over lifestyle. Just 2 people contributing equally. Lucas thought my duplex plan was smart, but he didn't treat it like it made me more valuable. He treated it like a practical decision, which somehow made it feel even better. 3 months passed quickly. Life settled into a rhythm. Work, home projects, dinner dates, weekend walks through the neighborhood. One Tuesday evening in early autumn, I was driving home from work when I noticed a car parked in my driveway. A car I recognized immediately. My stomach tightened. Sitting on the front steps of my duplex was Ethan. He stood when he saw me pull in. Nice place, he said as I stepped out of the car. He looked around the property slowly. The freshly painted porch. The small garden. The new mailbox. I heard you bought it. Yeah, I said calmly. He nodded. It suits you. I wasn't sure if that was meant as a compliment. What are you doing here, Ethan? He shifted awkwardly. I wanted to talk. About what? He looked down at his hands for a moment. About us. And just like that, the past was standing on my front porch again. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Ethan stood at the bottom of the porch steps, looking around like he was trying to measure the life I had built without him. The garden. The porch light I had installed myself. The quiet street lined with trees that had just started turning orange with early autumn. This place is really nice, he said again. I nodded once. It works for me. He shoved his hands into the pockets of his jacket. I heard the other unit is rented. It is. Smart. That word almost made me smile. For 2 years, the same decisions had been boring, cheap, and obsessive. Now suddenly they were smart. What do you want, Ethan? I asked. He exhaled slowly. I just wanted to see you. Why? He looked at the house again. I heard things have been going well for you. They have. I'm glad. There was a long pause, the kind that feels heavier the longer it stretches. Finally, he spoke again. Vanessa and I broke up. I know. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Marcus told you? He didn't have to. Ethan gave a humorless laugh. Yeah, it didn't exactly end well. I waited. He kicked a loose pebble off the driveway. She wasn't exactly what she seemed. How so? He looked embarrassed now. A lot of the money wasn't actually hers. That didn't surprise me. Leased cars, he continued quietly. Maxed credit cards, loans. And when everything collapsed, it got messy. I studied his face. The confidence I remembered was still there, but thinner somehow. More fragile. She had debt, he admitted. A lot of it. And you didn't know? She told me she had investments. Of course she did. And when it all caught up with her, he shrugged. She left town for a while. That explained the silence on social media. And you, I asked? He hesitated. I'm figuring things out. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he looked directly at me. I made a mistake, Sienna. The words landed softly in the quiet street. I shouldn't have walked away from you. I had expected him to say something like that. Still, hearing it out loud felt strange. You didn't walk away, I said calmly. You chose something else. He stepped a little closer. I thought I wanted a different life. And now? His eyes moved across the house again. The porch. The windows glowing with warm light from inside. I think I didn't understand what I had. There was sincerity in his voice. But sincerity didn't change the past. People learn things, he continued. Sometimes too late. I nodded slowly. That happens? He searched my face. So, could we talk about it? We are talking. You know what I mean. Yes. I knew exactly what he meant. Before I could answer, headlights turned into the driveway behind us. A familiar blue sedan pulled in. Lucas stepped out of the car. He paused when he saw Ethan. Hey, he said, walking up the driveway. His tone was calm, curious, not threatened. Hey, I said, how was work? Long meeting, he said, but it's over now. Then he glanced at Ethan. Didn't realize you had company. I turned slightly. Lucas, this is Ethan. We used to date. Lucas nodded politely. Nice to meet you. Ethan shook his hand. But I could see the recognition in his eyes immediately. The subtle calculation. Who is this man? How important is he? Lucas turned back to me. You still good for dinner? Of course. He smiled. I brought the pasta you like. The normalcy of that sentence felt grounding. Just dinner, just life continuing. Ethan cleared his throat. So, you two are... Lucas answered easily. We're together. I watched Ethan process that. How long? He asked. About 3 months, Lucas said. Ethan nodded slowly. Then he looked back at me. 3 months. Yes. He looked between us again, then asked the question I think he already knew the answer to. Is it serious? Lucas didn't answer. He waited for me to speak. And I did. Yes. Ethan absorbed that quietly. Then he looked at Lucas again. What do you do? Civil engineer. Another nod. Sounds stable. Lucas smiled slightly. I like building things that last. The sentence wasn't meant as a jab, but it landed like one anyway. Ethan looked back at the house one more time. You've done well, he said to me. Thank you. There was another pause. Then he asked softly, Is this really what you want? I knew what he meant. A quiet life. A practical partner. A home built slowly instead of bought for show. Yes, I said. It is. Lucas opened the front door. The smell of garlic and tomatoes drifted out from the kitchen where I had started dinner earlier. He stepped inside but left the door open, giving me space. Ethan noticed that. That's different, he said quietly. What is? He's not trying to interrupt. No, I said. He doesn't need to. Ethan smiled faintly. I guess that's confidence. Or trust. He looked down for a moment, then back up. Well, he said, I should probably go. I nodded. He walked toward his car. Halfway there, he stopped. For what it's worth, he said, turning back. I really am happy for you. I believed him. I hope things work out for you too, I said. He gave one final nod, then got into his car and drove away. I stood there for a moment watching the empty street. Then I went inside. Lucas was already in the kitchen, stirring the sauce on the stove. Everything okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. And this time I meant it. 8 months later, Lucas proposed. Not with a giant diamond. Not with fireworks or photographers hiding in bushes. Just the two of us standing in the living room of the duplex. The same living room where I had unpacked boxes on my first day. I want to build a life with you, he said. I said yes before he even finished the sentence. We're planning a small wedding next fall. Nothing extravagant. Just friends. Family. And the kind of future that grows slowly but steadily. Sometimes people ask if I ever hear from Ethan. A few texts. A birthday message once. A Christmas card. I never responded. Not out of anger. Just because there was nothing left to say. We both ended up with the lives we prioritized. He wanted something flashy. I wanted something real. Turns out, real lasts longer.